I am very excited now to introduce you to the WDO's Young Designers Circle, who is ready to host a workshop that aims to position the significant future role and impact of equity at the very center of design education. They will also explore how to harness your design skills to drive this vital agenda so that you can confidently contribute to the future making of a world we can all feel proud to live, work, and play in. Over to you, Chris and Ralitsa.
Hey, everybody, how's it going? My name's Sune. How are you doing?
Good, and you?
I'm doing okay. We're doing great. That was a fantastic. I came in late to the talk, and it was the last part. This idea of storytelling as like policy make. I just like hearing when like you use storytelling as the tool to like as the design tool. I just always love hearing this kind of work. So that was really great. So I guess we're gonna get started. But before I'm gonna introduce myself and then pass it over to Ralitsa and Sonia, who are two of my colleagues from the YDC. My name's Chris Pandolfi. I'm a designer and educator based in Toronto, Canada. And I'm like a strategic advisor for the Young Designer Circle, which we'll get in and talk about. So that's who I am. You'll maybe get to know a little bit more about me and the work of the YDC as we move through. Rally, you're below me, so I'm like, Ralitsa, next to that way, there you go.
Okay, cool.
If you want to introduce yourself a little bit.
Okay, so thank you so much. So I'm also Ralitsa, and I'm also part of the Young Designers, and we are super excited to be here. And we're looking forward to have a great time with everyone here in the live jam. So over to you, Sonia.
Oh, Sonia, you're on mute.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to our live jam. So I'm Sonia Fayed from Tunisia. I'm design consultant and founder of Tunisia Design Week and creative director. It's an art fair dedicated to design products and an accelerator for young designers. And I am core member of Young Designers Circle from Tunisia.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm gonna start by sharing our screen today. So just to go over like a little bit of an agenda, we're just gonna kind of go over what the YDC is, like what exactly is it, why it was founded, a little bit of the work that we've been doing, and then kind of get into a small, we don't want to call this like a heavy workshop. This is more of a conversation that we want people to engage with us in. So we're gonna use a Google Jamboard because it's lightweight on internet. And it'll help get the conversation going. But we encourage everybody, if you don't feel comfortable turning on your camera or your microphone, hey, that's totally fine. Feel free to just put things into the chat. Feel free just to listen along. Feel free to send us comments afterwards, after the workshop's done. It's completely up to you. We just want to make everybody feel comfortable the best that we can in this online environment. And at the same time, just hoping everybody's staying safe as they can out there as well too. So I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen. And I got to find the one. And give me 1 second. Oh, that's the wrong one. Okay, so I'm just going to share the presentation and then I'm going to get started. Okay, so thank you everybody who's in the audience right now, and also please feel free in the chat, maybe say where you're from, why you're even here. We'd love to get to know you. Sonia is going to be reading things out in the chat, and again, I want to make sure that everybody feels really comfortable. Think about this as like we're just in a room together, even though we're not, but we are in a room together, just keeping it nice and easy. All three of us are really easygoing people. So like, don't ever be afraid to like, hey, I have a question in the middle of your third slide, Chris. No problem. Ask that question. We're more than happy to get the conversation going. So, let's talk about this. The Young Designers Circle. What is this thing? So The Young Designer Circle was a kind of initiative that was spearheaded by the WDO, in particular, Gilles Rouchon, who's a member and former president, was like, hey, wouldn't it be really interesting if we went around the world and started to look for all these different young designers from different parts of the globe and brought them together to start to think about the different perspectives and understandings that young designers, and I don't want to just say the problems, but the way that young designers are working and talking to people throughout the world, bring them all together in a way where we could all learn from each other, but also take the learnings that we've done together and try to think about the kind of policies that could come out or the kind of actions or ideas that could emerge from this. And so essentially, we haven't really celebrated this yet, but we're actually almost at a 1 year anniversary. We're almost at our 1 year anniversary for the YDC. It's a completely COVID created initiative, which has been very interesting to navigate during this time, but also for myself has been really fruitful in the sense of meeting so many people from around the world. And so Gilles had asked me to come on as a kind of strategic advisor to help build this program with everybody. And I've been very fortunate enough to do that. So our YDC members are one of the biggest things for us, and this is this idea of constantly growing, is that we wanted to try to get representation from designers all over the world. So it wasn't just kind of like isolating, like, well, we're only going to be talking to people from this part or from this part. It was, you know, how do we start to create a group where we can start with a large scale of how do we kind of reach out to as many people as we can, and then eventually allow people within their own ways to kind of talk to their local communities, which Sonia is going to get into that in a little bit. So I talked about this stuff. So today what we're going to do is that we're going to talk a little bit about, just if you don't know who the WDO is, a little bit about that. Not so much, but more the Young Designer Circle, which I've described. But we want to go through some of our values and the projects that we're working on. So the big thing about the Young Designer Circle is that we've really been trying hard to be a value-driven organization. So the values that we create together are the way that we decide to go about and make projects. And then what we're going to do after that is kind of talk about this little bit of diversity and inclusion workshop. But what we wanted to do was focus this idea of diversity and inclusion also around the concept of education, because many of us in the YDC are educators, but also some of us are still in school. So it was a kind of natural fit for us to talk about this as a specific topic, as opposed to just the larger, broader idea of diversity and inclusion, because we're really interested in what other people think about this, because that the kind of information or the ways that we can talk about today can go and inform our future work. So the World Design Organization, I'm gonna just do this, like how many people, I mean, we're here for the World Industrial Design Day. I imagine many of you are familiar with the World Design Organization. It has over 170 plus members. Those members, they range from educational, corporate, professional, promotional, their cities, their associates. So it's a large global organization. And again, I think one of the reasons why the YDC fits really well with that is that we're also trying to be a global organization within the WDO, but also trying to set ourselves into local contexts. One of the big things that the WDO has been working on, and this is also something that the YDC has been considering, but also questioning from the YDC's point of view, is the Sustainable Development Goals coming from the United Nations. They are not, for us at the YDC, they are not the drivers of our work, but they are strong considerations and how we interpret them as we move forward. Sonia and Rally, I think that's a fair assessment of the way that we look at them, right? Yeah, like we're not, yeah, okay. And so just from the Young Designer Circle, I talked a little bit about this. Sonia, did you want to take it over from here, or did you want me to continue a little bit longer? Because we're about to get into it.
You can continue, Chris.
Okay, so I think the biggest thing for us from the Young Designer Circle standpoint is to really understand this idea of humility and thinking about how we can start to engage young designers in a bunch of different meaningful ways. And the key importance about that is that young designers are the ones that are going to be basically taking over this profession. And so some of the things that we found is that a lot of the core values that we have as members, we're not seeing that reflected in the industry. And to be very honest. And so for us, it's how do we take the kind of values of like this idea of humility and learning and transform that to actionable projects where we can engage even more people to create larger transformation. So the key thing about us is that we're not attempting to do anything by ourselves. What we are attempting to do is think about how to grow networks in context. So this is the mission. These are all the wonderful people that are currently YDC members. So an international collective of young designers, our mission is to build, engage, and leaven global interdisciplinary networks to empower designers to action and sustainable changes. And these are our values. And at this point, I'm going to pass it over to Sonia to talk a little bit more about our values.
Hi all again. So as we are a collaborative think tank, we are from all over the world. Every one of us is free to share ideas and to give opinions that we can develop our work and workshop. We are a curious team also. We are always looking for new ideas to apply. And then we have a bold spirit. And as we are from all over the world, from China, from Tunisia, from France, from Spain, etc., every one of us share his idea and opinion that we can apply this idea in our countries. That's how we think global and act locally in our countries. I let you continue, Chris.
Yeah, and Ralitsa, and now Ralitsa's gonna go over some of the YDC initiatives that may interest you. And when we say that may interest you, we are always this is us like a little plug for us to help grow the YDC and like pique your interest, because maybe there's some people on this call who would love to be part of the YDC. So Ralitsa, I'm gonna pass it over to you.
Thank you so much, Chris. Yes, we have a lot of projects that we are working on in the YDC. And what we've done is to categorize them into themes. And one of the core themes is equity in design. So for example, what we are doing today is really situated within equity in design. And then on the next slide, we have looking at the YDC chapter in the African context. There are actually so many projects going on. But like I said previously, the equity in design one is the one that we are expanding on right now for this World Industrial Design Day. And our colleagues in their other seminars will also touch on the other several projects. So we would like to call on you from the various African corners and also from the different parts of the world to share this idea to your youth designers, and then invite them to also join the Young Designers Circle when they see the call out. So we are very, very excited and open to onboard more ambassadors. And we hope that through today's session, you can get more people joining us. And we are looking forward to an exciting time with everyone. So at this point, I'll hand over the mic again to Chris. Chris, over to you.
Okay, so before we continue, I just want to know, are there any questions or comments at this point? Any questions about the YDC? Want more information about what we do? I just want to open up the floor before we kind of get into everything.
For now, we have greeting from India.
Oh, hi. Okay, so if anything comes up while we're working, please don't hesitate to ask. Okay, so at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move away from this presentation, and I think it would be better if I actually share I'm going to share the link for the Google Jamboard in the chat, and then I'm going to share my screen with the actual with the actual screen, so that way people can see everybody's answers, because I think it'll go a little bit easier. And again, if you're not able to use or write in your own answers, we're here. If you put it in the chat, we're here to help you with that. Okay. So if you just give me 1 second, I'm just going to do a quick transition there. And that's not, oh, there we go. Hold on 1 second. And here we go. So let me ask a question to everybody before we get started. And I'm just going to share this link here in the chat. And let me just find the chat here. Hold on 1 second. There we go. Is everybody able to access that link?
Thanks, Chris. Yes.
No problem. I'm seeing some anonymous things come in. An anonymous manatee has just joined, an anonymous badger, an anonymous goose, an anonymous hippo. This is great. Lots of people are slowly making their way in. That's fantastic. The next question I want to ask is, I'm just going to give a quick run through around Google Jamboard, because it's very easy to use. So if you notice, there's this button here. It's called the sticky note. You can see it on my screen. If you just click it, this will appear on your screen and you can write anything you would like. And if you hit save, it will add that sticky note to the Jamboard. So that's all you really need to do in terms of functionality for this. Again, just click on the link, just click on that little square that looks like a Post-it note, even though we know it's not a Post-it note because we're in digital space. It's just like a square. And then it's just typing your answer, typing your response. Okay, there we go. So, and again, just feel free to type your answers in the chat, and myself, Sonia, or Ralitsa are happy to bring those in and put them into the Jamboard. Also, if people just want to have a conversation sometimes, that's also great as well too. Okay, so one of the first questions that we have, and it's a little bit of a big question, and we want you to think about diversity and inclusion and what it means to you from your context. So this is the other important thing. Diversity and inclusion can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. So we're not asking you to try to think about what it means generally. We want to know what it means to you. And we want you to think about what are some ways that it can inspire new educational models. And when we say new educational models, this can mean from everything from like primary school education, right? Working with very, very young people, all the way up to postgraduate PhD level kind of education, or even continuing education. So there's no limits on when we're speaking about education. It's all types of education. So I'm just going to give everybody some time to think about some answers. And again, you either type them in here or type them in the chat. And we've got some people moving some stickies around. Here we go. So maybe some prompts to think about this. Maybe if you could think about your own personal experience going through different educational models, you know, what was missing from there? What more could be done? Thank you. By bringing new perspectives to the front. So sometimes thinking about maybe from a personal experience standpoint can get you going, but also maybe thinking about people that you've been, people that you know, and the stories that they've told you about going through education and some of the problems that they've had as well too. Great, and I'm just going to move these around. So stakeholder engagement and collaboration to include diversity and inclusion in education. I really like that one. It's like, it's almost like creating like co-designed education models. It's like, how many of the education models have we been left with have been like a bunch of people deciding this is the way we need to learn, as opposed to talking to people, like mixed groups of people to understand this is why we need to learn. And here's some different ways in order to do that. Documenting and sharing best practices in education models from across the globe. What makes good design? We often learn about Eurocentric design, Bauhaus, etc. Teaching history of where inspiration comes from. That is a great one. Closing the digital divide by bringing access to remote locations across the globe, right? Like maybe like if, for example, some of these solutions could be just infrastructural solutions. One way to bring more diversity in education is by deciding and creating better global infrastructure to deliver this stuff. Having an authentic understanding that everyone learns in a different way and should always be accommodated. That's also another really great one, especially for people with that learned like, they're known as, like in Canada, we call them like learning disabilities, but it's like, they're not learning disabilities. They're just different ways people learn. It's not the problem of the person that the system is not designed to think about different things, right? And like, even this as a mentality is something that's really important. Oh, what's this one? Speaking about more idols that are alive and often white males, we speak highly of Yves, Johnny, or Karim, but what about women BIPOC designers? So it's who are the faces that we are celebrating, right? Learning spaces should be designed to meet the needs of all learners and to ensure that no one is left behind. At this point, I'm gonna give like maybe 1 or 2 minutes, but for people who have made some of these comments, is there anything that maybe you want to elaborate on one of the things that you've said? Because these are really interesting as thoughts and ideas, but I know that we would love to hear maybe like some more opinions on it, or some more thoughts on that if you're open to speak. So I would invite anybody to just go ahead and add more if they would like. Ooh, bring in city professionals to the classrooms. My background is actually in urban planning, and that would be amazing if urban planners came into the classroom and had to listen to people about what they didn't know that they were doing. The people from the city would learn a lot. Change classroom orientation, right? The physical space, the physical and digital spaces of how we learn. Enabling people from different cultures to coexist respectfully. And then by including more diverse subjects that are presently ignored, increasing the knowledge. This one's an interesting one. Dividing grades by age makes education seem like a race. Does it have to be that way? Maybe we can have diversity in terms of age. That's really interesting as well too. These are great. Okay, so if nobody wants to share any more about this, maybe we'll come back to it. I'm going to move on to the next question. Does that sound okay? These are fantastic, by the way. I want to thank everybody for sharing all of this like immediately. I know sometimes the first one is like a little bit like, oh, should I go first? Do I feel like sharing? And so like I really appreciate all of this participation from you all. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the next one. Okay, so this one's a little bit like, right? So And I think it actually connects to maybe some of the answers that we saw from the first one. So don't be afraid maybe to expand on an idea that you've already had. So how can we reimagine a future that is more diverse and inclusive? So we want to step away just from education here and just think about the context that we live in. Maybe it's our local, it's our neighborhood, maybe it's the city that we live in, maybe it's a country, maybe it's a region, a global region that we live in. But what's important for us is that now what we wanted everybody to do is maybe go a little bit broader. So that way we can begin to maybe match up the kind of specific answers with some of these larger answers. So I would invite everybody to now think about how can we reimagine a future that is more diverse and inclusive? And I know that this is a very big question, by the way.
So Chris, just in case some people are not finding their way, if you can show where they can click on the next page up there so that people can move on to the next page.
I'm sorry about that. So if you go up here, so this was our first page, right? So you'll see this like little box here and it'll say 1/6, and then there'll be these 2 arrows. So if you just click, it'll say next frame, and then you'll be there on the next frame. So it'll say 2 out of 6. Thank you for that, Rally. I completely slipped my head. I made the classic mistake of assuming. So how can we, by making spaces for marginalized voices to be heard and valued? It's great. And also, when I think we use the word future, sometimes people think about a future that's maybe 40 years or 50 years, but you know, the future can also be like next week or like a very near future. So some of these ideas could be ideas that are actually happening right now in the present moment, which are starting to happen, but they're ideas that we want to really expand. So when you think about the future, you could think about it in a very far way or in a very close or near way. Open-minded and adapt to change in the post-pandemic. Yes, this is a really interesting one in the sense of that, like, I know that it's like there's certain things, especially around our public spaces that have been happening in my city in Toronto, that some of them have been, you know, very, they've been embraced by a lot of people. And one of the biggest fears is that some of these things that have been embraced is that the second that people like declare the pandemic over, which I don't know why anybody would do that in that way, is that they'll just remove these things that they've used, but yet that people have adapted to and changed to and started to enjoy, right? Having a group of individuals with decision-making power that is representative of the population. Revisiting history to provide credit and acknowledgement, as well as truth to the history. Spoken a little bit about it yesterday when we had a mini design history lesson. But beyond design, we need to change the way we teach history and teach how diverse our world truly is. That's a fantastic one. There's one of the conversations that we kind of have within the YDC a lot is this idea of like, sometimes designers think that design is like separate from the rest of the world. And it's like, no, design is a very political act. Design is working within history. Design is working within economics. As a designer, you know, and this is for sure 100% a personal opinion of mine, is that like, I believe design is a very, very, very political act and has very large repercussions when you're making these actions. And so it's like, if you don't understand the context of the world and how the world was shaped and you're just designing in it, it kind of seems very odd to me to be this way. Listening to and designing for minorities, proactively working towards developing sustainable solutions rather than passively reacting to problems. Enhancing diversity instead of trying to homogenize it. I'm just going to stop sharing my screen for 1 second. Just give me 1 second. You guys can still stay in there. I just realized I'm going to probably start getting notifications and I don't want that. There we go. Okay. Design with community and learners so they can reimagine their future together. So again, really wonderful responses. I'm wondering, is there anybody that would like to maybe talk more about some of the things that they've put down here? Maybe give us an example or a little bit of, maybe you have a story where this comes from that other people would love to hear, or an experience. Is that something, if somebody would like to share that, I would like to again open the floor for that possibility. Again, no pressure.
Yeah, I can share.
Yes, thanks, Megan.
Of course. So I wrote the one about revisiting history and providing credit and acknowledgement. I think part of the idea of going back and looking at where in the world we've come from and how we've gotten there will allow people to realize where their inspiration comes from and then bleed into the design and even creative world. And I think part of what inspired that is in the social media world right now with TikTok. There's a lot of conversation around how these, and this might be very American based, but there's a lot of conversations around how white influencers are essentially stealing inspiration, designs, music, conversations from the BIPOC community. And so without even realizing where the inspiration or these trends are coming from. And the reason that they're not realizing where these trends are coming from is because they're not taught to dive deeper into where inspiration and trends originate. And so I think going back and looking at and teaching the right way of where to provide credit and acknowledgement, as well as who really started these trends, will impact the future of being more diverse and inclusive.
Thank you very much, Megan, right? Because it's also about who gets the opportunities to push the thing in the future as well too, right? So it's like, you start something, but then when something that was maybe underground or not mainstream blows up, when the opportunities start to be given that people want to see more of these things, the people who start the thing don't get the opportunities to continue to develop the concepts or the ideas that they originally developed, which is also problematic, very problematic. But thank you very much. Anybody else? Okay, I'm going to once again go to the top of the Jamboard here. I'm going to hit the arrow, and I'm going to hit the next frame to bring us. And I think we talked about some of this. So I think and when I mean we talked about it, I mean people were talking about it through the Jamboard, through their answers that they were writing. I didn't forget what talking sounds like. So I think our next question is like, who should be leading the education models of the future to make it more equitable? And again, I think some of the answers that are in some of the earlier questions can come back here as well too. I would encourage that. Many people will be like, oh, it's funny that an answer shows up twice. That's really great for us because this is also, again, I'm going to thank everybody again right now, because for us, this is research. We're getting ideas from different people to help us think. So when we see things come up more than once, it starts to mean that these are the stories that people are thinking about. These are the ideas that people are thinking about, which means these are the things that we should probably be thinking about. So again, encourage you. Everybody already knows what to do. You're all wonderful.
Totally agree with the lead should be shared, I think.
Yeah. So it should be a democratic combination of experts, progressive thinkers, and stakeholders. So if schools have boards, that board must be diverse, not only in gender or ethnicity, but also age. Why are there school boards without students' voice on it? Good. Very well done. Government stakeholders, parents, and so give everybody a little bit more time on this one as well too. We're also making great time for the workshop, so we got lots of time. Educators who will take into account the interests of multiple generations. That's really important. The question is, who are the educators that will actually do this? Sorry. Diverse leadership. Okay. Okay. Are there? I think with this one, it's kind of like, I think maybe people use some of their best answers for some of the early stuff. I mean, these are and so what's nice is that what we can do with this is we can actually go back and look at what has been written here and kind of match it up with the first two questions a little bit later on, because I think there's some really good overlap with that, which is great. Expanded thought. It reminds me of quantitative versus qualitative data. School boards read quant data, they learn the what, but they often miss on the qualities why behind pain points or opportunity areas. 100%. Someone just wrote I mean, it looks big, but it's just like Carl Sagan. Does somebody want to explain who Carl Sagan is, maybe for other people who don't know who Carl Sagan is? I have my own context for him, but maybe this is a different context that I don't know about, to be honest. So if somebody would, even if you want to put it into the chat, I would be interested to know the perspective.
Hey, hello, hi.
Hi, how's it going?
I'm great. I'm doing good. I think Carl Sagan has been one of the most prolific science communicators who has, inspired many young ones to think in the field of astrophysics, not just as a science, but something to wonder about. And that wonder, I guess, Neil deGrasse Tyson is an example of such an inspiration, I guess. I think Neil deGrasse Tyson, coming from a minority, has shown in this field, and I guess that's a great example of diverse people getting included into frontier of science.
Okay, thank you very much for explaining that. That's great.
Thanks.
No problem. Okay, anybody else, or should we move on? Maybe we'll move on to board number 4, which will of course be question number 4. So I think at this point we've had like a lot of ideas around like what to do or what to think, but I think this question, what we're trying to do, if there's like what do we mean by increasing diversity and inclusion in education? Like, what are, and I think to prompt people here, like, what are some actions? So in the last couple of questions, people have suggested who should be, you know, one of the answers was like, it should be very democratic. It should be a mix of progressive thinkers. It should be a mix of different age groups, these kinds of things. So this question almost like, so what do we mean by increasing diversity and inclusion in education? Like, maybe think about like the actions, if that makes sense, more of some of the actions that we could take. Like, what are things that we can do to help prompt you? And also, that's one way to approach the question. The other way to approach it is to think about, you know, what does it mean? Maybe thinking about what does it mean to you in your context again. So diverse role models, it means we're sharing, collaborating respectively with others' perspective, geared towards relational goals. I like this idea of relational goals. I know in design, we're very always about like, what's the goal of something? But this idea of relational goals makes goals more flexible and understanding of like context and moments, which is really nice. Really like that concept of relational goals. That's the way I'm thinking about it when I hear that term. So it's really nice. Make it easier for learners to engage with each other and coexist. That's yes. That you know, that's actually a very like powerful one as well too. Just like when I think about like even sometimes when I'm in the classroom, or like when students like getting students when they're even just when they're working together, and how to create the right atmosphere for them to start just to begin to understand each other, as like to move forward to work together, and understanding that takes time. I think there's this thing of like, oh, we're going to bring a bunch of people and it's just going to work out, without understanding that you need to give space for people to kind of like know each other, understand each other. Like, what does it mean to share together? You know, it's still like sharing an idea with somebody is still a very vulnerable act. And, you know, how do we actually make it easier for people to do that constantly, right? This is something like, you know, there's a lot of ways that I try to do it, but I'm always trying to think about other ways because people are so different. So we have diversity in terms of new pedagogical tools. Sorry, I always have a problem pronouncing that word. Example, blended learning with diverse, relatable role models, technologies, and physical spaces. Yep. So is there again, as always, I'm open. I'd like to open the floor up if anybody would like to share or expand on some of the answers they gave, or if they found something that somebody else wrote that was really interesting that they maybe have some comments for. That would be fantastic. Don't be shy. Or type it in the chat. that's still something I always still have, like, when I first started going online like this all the time, it was like you started to feel like you were like this person on YouTube, where you were like, oh, like, let's check out what's going on in the chat. What's going on in the chat, everyone? Like it was a separate place. It's like, hey, here's this other place that's going on, you know? So it's like I still find that slightly humorous. So okay. I think we're ready to move. I think we're ready to move on. Okay, here we go. Thank you, Rally. I got the thumbs up. Thank you. Okay, so I think at this point, for us, it's and I'm happy to go back and revisit. But I think at this point, you know, you can write them down. But you know, this was kind of like mainly a reflection period for all of us. One of the things at the YDC that we always kind of try to talk to each other about is, you know, the things that we learn together. How can we go to the places that we're at and think about how those things can happen, or maybe not happen, because maybe they shouldn't happen, by the way. Like, I don't want to assume that everything's a good idea, by the way. Like, maybe there's things that are said that are like, this shouldn't happen. But I think what's really interesting here is to think about, you know, we've had a lot of wonderful people contribute to today's conversation, and this moment of like just taking a moment to reflect back on what you've read or what you've seen, and in some cases what you've heard, to let us know what those are, just in terms of what diversity and inclusion means. This can also be about what you've been seeing, you know, throughout World Industrial Design Day. Maybe there was something else that you saw that helped give you ideas for this, or maybe there's something that was missing from our workshop that you saw from somebody else, and you're like, hey, we would love for you to know this, because there, you know, there was another workshop today that kind of talked about education in this way, you know, that maybe we should contact them so we can get more information. So think about this as a very open, the idea of reflection being very open for comments. And again, the floor is open for people just to talk or type in the chat as well too. Oh, here, let me move this up. Doors to new learnings. To be more accommodating. Oh, that just, and trust. That was nice how that just was like a little animation there for a second.
Really interesting answers that we are receiving, Chris.
Yeah. Because I think we could, so I guess while everybody is doing this, again, we could talk about like what are the next steps for us, because I feel it's very important that when people, you know, when people give their time and their knowledge, I think it's important that everybody knows what's going to happen with this. So essentially, what's going to happen now is that our equity and education team will both look at these responses, and I think a couple of things are going to happen. So we do have a survey, which I'm going to let Ralitsa kind of push in a couple of seconds. But this will actually go to inform some of the work that we've been doing around these two topics. And I think what's really interesting is that although the two topics have been touching each other, obviously, like we've been thinking about them both, I think that there's some of the answers here that might help us in terms of when we're building our final report. And of course, we're going to reference this workshop as a kind of research phase. So that's the other thing. This workshop is referenced as like this is research for us as well too. So we're going to reference this, the participants, and the ideas that came out of here as well too. So I just want to let everybody know where that work's going to go. Okay, and so while people are just finishing up, Raleigh, did you want to talk to everybody about the survey for a little bit? Did you want to like talk to them about that and maybe let them know what's going on with it?
Okay, thanks so much, Chris. So I'm gonna share the survey in the chat now, and please grab that and share with your networks for us. The survey is basically about equity in design, and then we want to hear more views about people and what their views are about equity in design. And we know that there are a lot of young people out there who have one way or the other have found the diversity to be on the positive side for them. And for others, it has also been something that has really disenfranchised them in a certain way. So we'd like to hear more about that. And beyond that, we also want to see who are the designers out there, and everyone out there. We want to hear your views and your professions and the other skills or other design what we call the specializations that we don't know so much about as well. So we opened the survey up, and it doesn't take too long to complete that. We'll be super excited to see that you share far and wide in all your networks, and so that we can curate more feedback and put it in our report back. Please note that it is not for any other personal reasons, but for us to actually collectively enhance the design community. And any information you share there, it's done anonymously. Unless you want us to contact you, then there's a portion where you put down your name. So feel comfortable to share your views. And then obviously when we are done, we'll share our report back with everyone that wants to hear what we got back out of the survey. So thank you so much. That's all about the survey. Over to you, Chris. Your mic is muted, Chris.
Hey, thank you. Sorry, I got lost on I'm on a double screen here, and I got lost. I got lost with the microphone. Yeah, I think for us, there's a small little bit of time. I just want to say thank you again, and Sonia, I don't know, did you have any parting words maybe for everybody? And then I think afterwards maybe we could pass it over to Natalie just to maybe let everybody know what's coming up next, if that makes sense. So Sonia.
Hi, so we are looking for ambassadors from all over the world. Feel free to join us. We are here for more diversity in design.
Great. And yeah, once again, thank you very much from our end. We really appreciated your time today and really your thoughtfulness and your fantastic answers. Natalie, did you want to maybe let everybody know what's coming up next after we're done over here?
Sure, absolutely. Chris, are you planning to finish by 10:30? Is that the idea here?
Yeah, I think we were. I got 10:24 on my time, and I think we kind of rolled through the workshop. So I know. Hold on one second. Sorry, I'm just going to stop sharing my screen.
And yeah, I think here, Chris. We are also here for more questions for the rest of the time left for anybody who wants to ask more information about the young designers. And of course, we are also happy that Megan is here from the education team with us. So we have quite a different petals here to answer any questions that people would like to ask concerning the YDC. So yeah. Thank you so much. Over to you, Chris. Would you like to share the social networking slide? Thanks.
Yeah, hold on one second.
So we just received an interesting question. So how can we apply for volunteering as a volunteer?
So let me just put this slide up. Just share this. So in terms of volunteering, what we can do is just so you know where we're at in the process. So the first phase of the YDC is going to be coming to a conclusion at the World Design Assembly. So that's coming up. So in the next few months, the first round of the YDC will be over, and then after that, we'll be doing a second call out for new YDC members and new YDC ambassadors. In the meantime, in terms of volunteering, I think if you send us your name and where we can, and maybe we can, we'll put a couple email addresses in the chat, that if you can reach out to us, what we can do is we can keep you on file and let you know that maybe you can get involved with some people who happen to be who are currently with the YDC chapter right now, like who are in your part of the world, because I'm not sure what part of the world you're in right now. So maybe there's some people that we can put you in touch with.
So also they can contact our core members in their countries.
Yes, but I think what we could do is we can try to connect them with those members if we know that.
Yes, from India.
Okay, so I think with Sahil.
And then, of course, when you look at our YDC page at the WDO website, you'll find all of us there, and you can get our contacts and our LinkedIn connections, and you can email us as well. And we can also get in touch from there. But if you have any questions or anything that you need clarity on, please feel free to email the WDO email address on the WDO website, and then you can get more information about the YDC. Thank you very much. So any more to add, Chris? And then if anybody still wants to take the mic, please, you're welcome to do so. And we are here.
Maybe I can ask some people some questions that are with us right now. Where you're also, maybe you have a question about what a young designer is. Maybe like people are wondering like, what's a young designer? And for us, we've kind of said a young designer is anybody under 40. So I just want everybody to like understand like the breadth of kind of the age that we're looking at. We're not just looking at people who are like 18 to 25 here. We wanted to really open it up to a wide group of people, because many of you may know in the design profession, somehow you can be 40 years old and still be like, people are still like, you need more experience, and you're like, okay. So it makes for a very also interesting intergenerational working group for young designers. This is also the other reason as well too. So I just wanted to maybe clarify that question if anybody was wondering and wanted to ask. Also, if anybody knows of any organizations where they're from that they think would be useful for us to learn about and maybe try to connect with, we'd also be very open to that as well too. Maybe there's a local organization or a national organization that's working around some of the issues that we are in design and you would like to connect us to.